Here at the Coliseum in Lexington, Kentucky comes out in its white uniforms. Ed Beck at 6'7" will jump center. Georgia Tech, the entire 10-man squad, huddled up around Quack Hyder, a coach who has the distinction of beating Kentucky twice in the same season, releases his 5 starters, and we're ready to settle down to a ball game. Frank Inman in against Beck. Kentucky will have 1/2 inch height advantage on the opening tap. We'll be back with you over these same stations Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, when Kentucky plays Vanderbilt in Nashville. 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Central Time, for Monday night's broadcast from Nashville, Kentucky and Vanderbilt. Should be a fine ball game. Down in Knoxville tonight, the Commodores are playing the Volunteers, and with some sort of electrical trouble, the horn will not blow. We're going to have a delay on the start of tonight's ball game. So with the delay in the start of the game because of an inoperative horn, let's check over some of the other sports news today that developed around the country. Out in Los Angeles, we haven't had any later reports, but Dutch Harrison, at the latest check, has the lead in the second round of the $35,000 Los Angeles Open golf tournament. He had a 1 under par 70 to go with that fine 68 of yesterday, and he finished up with a 138. Of particular note to Kentuckians will be the fact that Junior Brewer of Lexington today fired a 69, and he moved in among the 140 finishers in the LA Open. Means Junior Brewer is only 2 strokes off the pace after 36 holes. Over on football today, John Michelson of Pittsburgh said that he is against a proposal to place the goalpost on the goal lines in college football because it will be dangerous and of little advantage to college teams. As you may recall yesterday, the 8 Ivy League coaches said that they will present the proposal to the NCAA that gets underway in Philadelphia tomorrow. Under present NCAA rules, goalposts are located 10 yards behind the goal lines. Well, we're ready to go with our game now, starting about 2.5 minutes late. Beck moves in against Johnson with a 1/2 inch height advantage for Kentucky and taps deep in backcourt to Adrian Smith. Georgia Tech virtually spotted Kentucky the opening tap. Hatton moves it up in front court, works to Krigler on the right side, back to Odie Smith, breaking down the side, turns and lays it up and in. Odie Smith, on an individual move, gets the first field goal of the game after 11 seconds, and it's 2-0 for the Wildcats with Randall back in front court. Passing to Blemker, a left-hander, who stays deep and moves to the right against Hatton, playing him loosely. Into Gary Phillips, breaks out against Krigler, fires it to the left. No good as it's knocked down and taken by Randall, knocked down by Odie Smith, picked up again by Randall and given to Blemker. Stays out deep and on the left side with a pass to Gary Phillips, moves out again on Krigler, goes for the basket and shoots good. So Gary Phillips, with his first field goal, ties the game 2-2 with Johnny Cox moving down the left side, passing back out front to Smith to Hatton on the right side to Krigler. He's left open by Randall and shoots good. John Krigler, with his first field goal, puts Kentucky back in front by 2 points at 4-2. Kentucky has had 2 shots and hit 2. Odie Smith and Krigler connecting. Randall in front court on the left side to Phillips. Has it knocked away by Krigler. Lets it bounce 2 or 3 times, walks out and gets it. Passes over to Bud Blemker, moving to the right side against Hatton, free throw line deep. Now retreating to the front lines as Tech is slowing it down here in the early going. Blemker over to Randall. Got Odie Smith on him. So he floats to the right, bounces back to Blemker at the top rim of the circle, fakes Hatton and shoots from 15 feet good. Bud Blemker with his first field goal ties it up 4-4. Johnny Cox once again on the left side for Kentucky. Passes out front to Hatton. Back down the left side to Cox, back to Hatton. Out to the top of the circle's Krigler, and a jump shot short. Off the rim, Smith lays it up no good. Beck taps it in. Ed Beck with his first field goal, and Kentucky leads 6-4. Kentucky's had leads of 2-0, 4-2, and now 6-4. It's Blemker, the left-hander, passes on the right side to Jim Johnson. Back to Blemker, shot, no good. Over the rim, Randall and Smith go for it, and it's on the baseline out of bounds. Georgia Tech will put it in play to the left of their own basket. 2 minutes, 5 seconds have been played. Kentucky leading 3 field goals to 2. Phillips passes deep to Blemker on the left side to Johnson, drives against Beck, and a jump shot to the right, no good. Krigler gets the rebound, but he can't get out. He's tied up. 17 minutes, 44 seconds in the first half. John Krigler at 6'3", moves out against Gary Phillips at 6'1", and gives Kentucky 2 inches height advantage. Taps to Hatton, who takes it on the bounce for the Wildcats as they move for the first time in front court with a 2-point advantage. On the right side to Krigler from 15 feet, no good. Bounces up on the rim and finally went in. Took 2 high bounces on the rim as Krigler became the first man to get 2 field goals and give Kentucky a lead of 8-4. Cats have been down the court 4 times, picked up 4 field goals. Blemker in front court, underhands a soft pass to the left to Phillips, drives in against Krigler, doesn't get the shot away. It's knocked down by Krigler, picked up by Odie Smith, and a jump ball is called. He'll jump with Frank Inman at 6'6.5", giving Georgia Tech 6.5 inches height advantage on their own free throw line. The tap is deep, and Hatton races in to get it. Up in the front court, at the free throw line, goes to Smith, drives to the left. It's kicked away and out of bounds, goes to Georgia Tech off the knee of Smith. So there's the first time that Kentucky didn't score. Bud Blemker of Tech moves back in front court after 3 minutes with the Wildcats in front 8-4. On the left side to Jim Johnson, one of the tri-captains, to the free throw line, and the pivot to Terry Randall, falls away from Smith and hits. And Terry Randall, with his first field goal, puts Georgia Tech within 2 points at 8-6. Vernon Hatton in front court, passes right side to Krigler, breaks in on Randall, who had to turn his back on Krigler, who turns and shoots, and it's good. John Krigler laying in his 3rd field goal as Terry Randall made the mistake of defensively turning his back on Krieg. Makes it 10-6, Kentucky's second lead of 4 points. On the right side for Tech to Jim Johnson. Watches Gary Phillips go down the middle, come out into the right corner, and gives him the ball. He breaks a switch on the play as Krigler picks him up. He passes outside to Blemker. Blemker returns it. In the pivot, Frank Inman is playing at the free throw line. On the right side to Phillips. Breaks in, Beck picks him up, and he shoots no good. Tapped in beautifully by Inman. First field goal by Inman, and the score is 10-8. Vernon Hatton moves back in front court for the Wildcats. Calls Johnny Cox off the left side. Beck comes out. They work the back block, and Hatton takes a jump shot good off the left side of the circle. Vernon Hatton is the 5th Wildcat to score, and it's 12-8. Kentucky's 3rd 4-point lead. Bud Blemker of Tech in front court on the right side to Johnson, and back to Blemker, free throw line deep. Threatening to go in. Beck switches off on him. Takes the big man to the 3-second zone at the free throw line. Gives off to Randall. He breaks out. Beck switches in on him, and Randall backs away deep. Beck comes on out front with him defensively. He gives to Johnson on the right side, and he takes a top rim of the circle jump shot, no good. Beck is in to get the rebound, shoots it out front on a bad pass. It's picked up by Johnson of Tech, and from 15 feet he misses. This time the rebound is taken off by Gary Phillips of Tech, knocked down by his own teammate Jim Johnson, but picked up by Phillips and fed out deep to Terry Randall. Kentucky 12, Georgia Tech 8. Randall passes over to Bud Blemker, moving slowly to the left as Tech plays it open to the right side. Over to Randall at the free throw line, spins by Odie Smith, and here's the first foul of the game on Adrian Smith. Terry Randall goes to the Georgia Tech free throw line for 1 free throw. We have played 5 minutes. Kentucky paced by Krigler with 6 points. Cox, the only man who hasn't scored, as Randall drops in the free throw to lead Georgia Tech with 3 points. It's 12-9. Hatton moves back in front court. Lets Beck get into the pivot. Passes to Krigler on the right side. To Odie Smith breaking in against Terry Randall, who fouled him. So that's the first foul on Randall, and each team has drawn 1 personal after 5 minutes and 8 seconds. Adrian Smith is on the Kentucky free throw line. This season, Smith has hit 51 out of 65 free throws. He's had more than anybody else, and this one's good. To put Kentucky back in front by 4 points at 13-9. Smith is second in scoring for the Wildcats with 3 points. Kentucky 13-9. Gary Phillips brings it back in front court for the Yellow Jackets. Passes out front to Terry Randall. Fakes left, comes out to the top rim of the circle, and then backs away from Krigler this time. Over to Bud Blemker. Back to Randall. He gets away wide open for a shot that's good. Terry Randall with his second field goal pulls Georgia Tech within 2 points at 13-11. Adrian Smith back in front court for the Cats. Gives down the right side to Krigler, out front to Hatton, who breaks right down the middle, comes out from under the left side, turns, flips to Cox at the free throw line. A 1-bounce dribble back to Hatton, and from 15 feet he shoots short. Bud Blemker rebounds for Georgia Tech. Now the Engineers have a chance to tie up this 13-11 ball game. Bud Blemker in front court. Plays it on the left side to Phillips, who turns facing Krigler. He's picked off the play. Beck picks him up at the top rim of the circle. Out to Terry Randall, spins down to the side where he's double teamed, gives off to Phillips, fakes Adrian Smith out of the way, but passes out to Bud Blemker. At the free throw line, he pivots, gives to Terry Randall, and from 20 feet, jump shot in and out. Cox rebounds for Kentucky, shoots it out to Krigler on the fast break, whips to Adrian Smith against Terry Randall. He faked him, and a foul is called on Adrian. Check it, it's blocking. Terry Randall of Tech drawing his second foul. Stops the clock with 13 minutes and 41 seconds in the first half. Adrian Smith on the Kentucky line for one shot. Smith shoots good. So we haven't had a free throw missed in this game. 2 for Kentucky and 1 by Georgia Tech. It's 14-11 as Krigler cuts off an intended pass for Blimker. Up to Smith to Hatton, and it's 2-on-2 as Hatton from 5 feet misses. Phillips rebounds for Tech and takes it away. Passes her over to Terry Randall, who walks up the back court with it for the Engineers, over the stripe. Down the right side to Phillips, who turns, faces Krigler, breaks to the baseline, and lays it up and in. Gary Phillips with his second field goal pulls Georgia Tech within 1 point, 14-13, as Cox breaks down the left side and is fouled by Georgia Tech's Frank Inman. First foul on Inman, third on Georgia Tech. Timeout Georgia Tech. It is the first timeout of the game, and here's the individual scoring so far. Kentucky being led by John Krigler with 6 points on 3 field goals. Odie Smith has 4 points, a field goal and 2 free throws. Vernon Hatton 2 points with a field goal, and Ed Beck 2 points with a field goal. Johnny Cox has not scored. Georgia Tech being paced by Terry Randall with 5 points, 2 field goals and a free throw. Gary Phillips with 4 points on 2 field goals. Bud Blimker and Frank Inman each have 2 points on a field goal. Jim Johnson so far has been shut out. Georgia Tech has been able to tie Kentucky only twice. Adrian Smith put Kentucky in front 2-0, but Gary Phillips matched it with a 15-foot jump shot after 40 seconds. Then Krigler hit from 10 feet, but Blimker matched it with a one-hand jump shot. And after a minute and a half, it was 4-4. Unofficially, our shooting percentages show Kentucky hitting 6 out of 10 shots, giving them 60%. Georgia Tech's hitting 30.8%. They've hit 4 out of 10. Coming out of the Georgia Tech lineup is Frank Inman. He's being replaced by Dave Denton of Bowling Green, Kentucky. D-E-N-T-O-N, a 19-year-old sophomore. Denton is 6'3", weighs 180, as Georgia Tech, in substituting, loses 3.5 inches of its height. Denton plays with the left wrist taped. Also the right, like a tennis player. Johnny Cox will take 2 free throws. Ready for the first one. It's good. So now all 5 of the Wildcats have scored as they lead by 2 points at 15-13. 13 minutes, 9 seconds in the first half. Cox drops in the second shot. And still, we have a perfect night at the free throw line for both teams. 16-13 for the Cats as Gary Phillips of Tech feeds to Denton on the pivot. Fakes back, drives right, hooks high and short. Cox rebounds, drops it, picks it up in the bounce, breaks out of there with it, establishes a quick break, whips to Hatton, shoots to Krigler, and as he's fouled as he jumps to shoot. Pushing foul by Dave Denton of Georgia Tech, just in the ball game, committing Tech's 4th personal, his first. John Krigler will take one. Krigler's first appearance at the free throw line. Percentage-wise, he's Kentucky's best free throw shooter, and he shoots good. Krigler shot slightly to the right, caught the right side of the rim, and dropped in for a 17-13 Kentucky lead after Tech has pulled within 14-13. They're behind by 4. In the pivot to Dayton, falls away from 15 feet, and it's in and out and back in. Dave Denton gets his first field goal. He was already in back court when that ball finally went into the nets to make it 17-15 for Kentucky. Tech has never had the lead. They've tied it up twice, 2-2-4-4. Cox from 20 feet with a jump shot. Good. Straight away. Johnny Cox with his first field goal, and all 5 of the Cats have picked up one as they lead by 4 points at 19-15. Kentucky has not been able to increase its margin over 4 points. Bud Blimker on the right side, pops one from 20 feet that's no good. Taken off by Dave Denton of the Engineers in the left corner. A one-hand turnaround shot's way over the rim. Knocked out of bounds by Krigler, who took an official with him in losing his balance. Onto the Georgia Tech basket, the Yellow Jackets have it. Gary Phillips out of bounds, passes in the right corner to Jim Johnson. Back out to Randall. Moves into the free throw line, where he's picked up by Cox on a switch. Out to Gary Phillips. He breaks down the middle on Krigler. Hooks one that Beck knocks away from Johnson. Picked up by Randall in the left corner for a jump shot. No good. Tapped by Denton. No good. Beck slaps it to the outside to Odie Smith. He kicks off a 2-1 break with Cox over to Smith. Driving in. A foul is called on Randall of Georgia Tech, his 3rd one. And now the Engineers have committed 5, with Randall committing 3 of them. 11 minutes, 41 seconds in the first half as Odie Smith will take 2. Smith is 2 for 2 at the free throw line. He owns 4 points. The first one's good. Kentucky leads for the first time by 5 points. As Smith shoots the second shot, good. Kentucky has 7 free throws. Tech has 1. Neither team has missed. Kentucky 21, Georgia Tech 15. Gary Phillips in front court for the Yellow Jackets. Passes back out front to Terry Randall. Back to Phillips on the right side. Turns. Hooks a pass to Johnson from 10 feet. No good. Rebounding Phillips lays it up short. Krigler rebounds. Knocked away. Picked up by Randall, who lays it in. Third field goal by Randall, who matches Krigler for the lead in that department, and it's 21-17. Adrian Smith in front court for the Cats. Fakes one to Hatton and gives it to him as Jim Johnson has switched off on him. In the pivot to Krigler, who's got Terry Randall on him. From 10 feet, he shoots no good, and Phillips rebounds for Georgia Tech. Kentucky got the little man on Krigler, who took him to the pivot, but failed to score. Terry Randall in front court for the Yellow Jackets. Down the left side to Denton. Fakes, breaks out on Cox off a screen from 15 feet. He hits. Dave Denton has 2 field goals. Georgia Tech is back within 2 points, 21-19. Hatton in front court. As the horn sounds, it doesn't mean anything. It just means they finally got it to working. So Kentucky gets the ball at midcourt as play was stopped. Incidentally, pass into Hatton to Odie Smith in front court. Back to Hatton. Down the right side as Krigler goes back to the pivot. Beck from the outside shoots short. Krigler rebounds, tries to hook it up in there. No good. Phillips of Georgia Tech gets the rebound. Over to Dave Denton, who moves up the back court with it. And a chance for the Yellow Jackets to tie it up. Denton takes it down the left side against Johnny Cox. Passes into Jim Johnson. Spins to his left against Beck. Shoots under him. No good. Tapped by Denton. No good. And rebounded by Cox. Fades it out to Odie Smith on a 2-2 break with Krigler. Smith all the way. Lays it in. Good. The goal is good, but a foul on Smith for charging. Gives Odie Smith his second field goal. Those are the only 2 personals against Kentucky. The Wildcats lead 23-19 as Bud Blemker goes to the free throw line for the first time. We have 9 minutes and 56 seconds here in the first half. As Blemker, the southpaw, hits. It is 23-20 with Krigler quickly in front court for the Wildcats. Passing it out to Beck to Hatton at the top rim of the circle. He breaks right down the free throw line, goes all the way and misses. Rebounding Georgia Tech's Jim Johnson, knocked down by Hatton, picked up by Phillips under the Kentucky basket. Out to Dave Denton, who moves up into front court now. Behind his back on the bounce to Terry Randall. Down the left side to Denton with Cox playing him loosely. Denton breaks out to the free throw line, takes a jump shot over Cox, and it's short. Rebounding Cox, whips to Odie Smith, breaking into front court on a well-set Tech defense. Over to Cox, 15-footer, no good. Off the rim, Cox knocks it away from Johnson out of bounds to Georgia Tech. Kentucky 23, Georgia Tech 20. Terry Randall, playing with 3 personal fouls, moves up into front court. Passing over to Blemker, staying deep with it, straight away about 30 feet. Cuts back to the left with Hatton, takes him to the baseline, falls away with a shot that's no good. Up into the air, Odie Smith gets the rebound for Kentucky, whips to Hatton, hit him right in the foot. And it's picked up by Dave Denton of Georgia Tech, who moves it right back in front court as Frank Inman waits to get back in the ball game. Between his legs behind him, the ball is thrown by Denton to Johnson and back to Denton. Outside to Blemker. Georgia Tech playing a slowed-down ball game that stands 23-20 in favor of Kentucky. Over to Gary Phillips on the right side. Breaks, Krigler stays with him, and he can't get a shot off. Out to Dave Denton. Takes a shot from 20 feet, that's no good. Rebounding Ed Beck, knocked away from him and out of bounds by Gary Phillips of Tech. Kentucky takes it under the Tech basket. Vernon Hatton out of bounds with it. Throws a 2-bounce pass into Odie Smith, who looks to the bench to hear what's being yelled, and moves into front court. Fakes on the right side, then gives back to Hatton to the pivot to Beck. Back to Cox on the left side. He takes the jump shot, and it's no good. Beck slaps to the outside. Odie Smith picks it up and from 15 feet hits. Adrian Smith is the 3rd man in the game to get 3 field goals. Krigler of Kentucky has also picked up 3, and Randall of Georgia Tech has 3. Kentucky leads 25-20. Their longest lead was 6 points, 21-15. On the left side to Denton and back to Blemker, free throw line deep. He weaves and bobs, and Beck switches off on him as Blemker takes him out deep. Hatton is in the pivot now on the 6'6" Jim Johnson. Out to Terry Randall, moving to the left side. Back to Blemker as Hatton switches off on him. Blemker shoots from 20 feet and misses. Way to the left. It's knocked out of bounds. Goes to Georgia Tech on the left side of the offensive court. 7.5 minutes in this first half. Denton passes deep to Blemker. Blemker setting it up. We got Johnson in on the pivot as he passes left side to Denton. Breaks away from Cox. And a foul on Cox, who grabbed him going by. It's the first foul on Cox, the third on Kentucky, and Frank Inman, the sophomore from Memphis, Tennessee, is back into the Georgia Tech lineup. Jim Johnson comes out. Georgia Tech gains a half-inch height advantage on the substitution as Dave Denton goes to the Tech free throw line for one shot. The free throw's good. And we have now had 10 consecutive free throws by both teams. Krigler in front court has it knocked into the right corner by Denton, but he picks it up and feeds deep to back to Hatton on the left side to Cox, back to Hatton. He fakes, breaks by Johnson, gives to Cox from 10 feet to the left. It's no good. Beck taps no good. Rebounding Krigler, and he's tied up. We'll jump at the Kentucky free throw line. 7 minutes in this first half. Kentucky 25, Georgia Tech 21. Inman at 6.5. We'll have 3.5 inches height advantage for Tech on the Kentucky free throw line. Here's the tap on the side. Cox knocks it back deep into the air, and Odie Smith gets it, with Randall threatening to go by him and get him, but not risking any contact. Over to Hatton from 15 feet, no good. Tapped up by Beck, no good. Rebounding Phillips of Georgia Tech. Hatton on his back knocked it out of bounds. So Phillips points to the referee that Hatton was up on his back as he throws the ball in to Terry Randall, moving in front court now for Georgia Tech. They're behind by 4 points. Tech yet to have the lead. Here's Phillips feeding one to Krigler. Knocks away from Johnson to Beck to Cox. Cox goes down one-on-one with Denton, who goes for the ball. Cox almost lost it and walks with it. Goes out of bounds to Georgia Tech. Kentucky 25, Georgia Tech 21. Bud Blemker up in front court for the Yellow Jackets. Down the right side to Phillips. Shoots over Krigler's head, and it's good. Gary Phillips with his third field goal, and each team has 2 men with 3 personals as Phil Johnson comes off the Kentucky bench. The pass in the pivot to Beck, back to Hatton at the top of the circle for a jump shot that's no good. Beck taps it in beautifully. Ed Beck with his second field goal puts Kentucky in front 27-23. Bud Blemker in front court for the Engineers. Feeds over to Terry Randall, breaks to the right, then backs away from Odie Smith. Bounce pass, top rim of the circle to Blemker. Turns to face Hatton. Looks at his possibilities, doesn't like them, backs away. Blemker walking now deep into the right. Hatton letting him go. 5.5 minutes to play here at the Coliseum in Lexington. Over to Randall. Straightens up to shoot, then gives to Denton on the left side. Quick jump shot, good. 3 field goals, 7 points by Dave Denton as he equals Terry Randall, and a 27-25 ball game. Kentucky with a 2-point edge. Cox to Odie Smith. 20-foot set shot, good. So Adrian Smith, the top scorer in the ball game with 12 points, puts Kentucky in front by 4 at 29-25. 15 minutes gone. Bud Blemker of Tech in front court down the right side, goes to the corner as Hatton drives him to the baseline. He brings it back up the right side. Back out front with a pass to Randall. Down the left side to Phillips, who faces Krigler. Breaks out Beck, picks him up as he goes and shoots short. To the outside, Beck knocks it down. Cox picks it up. Shoots a blind pass in, and Krigler leaps and gets, whips to Smith in front court. 2-2 break with Hatton. Smith off the right side to Krigler, and from 15 feet, it's good. John Krigler with his 4th field goal to match the 4 by Smith puts Kentucky in front for the second time by 6 points, 31-25. On the right side, a break by Denton. Jump shot out of the corner, no good. Beck has the rebound knocked out of bounds, and it goes to Kentucky under the Tech basket. Whipped in front court to Krigler, breaks in on Blemker, and lays it in good. Krigler hit the floor under the basket in a collision with Blemker. As Krigler picks up his 5th field goal, takes the lead in that department, and timeout Georgia Tech, their second of the ball game. Georgia Tech coach Wack Hyder wants to say something to one of the officials with 4 minutes, 4 seconds to go. Krigler comes out of the game after picking up his 11th point, and Phil Johnson replaces him, Kentucky's first substitute, a 21-year-old junior from Lexington. Johnson at 6'6", will give Kentucky 3 more inches of height. He weighs 220, is the number 5 scorer with 57 points, an average of 6.3 a game. Had his best night here against Utah State when he picked up 11. Georgia Tech will not make a change in the lineup. Here's Kentucky scoring. Adrian Smith has 12 points. John Krigler has 11. Johnny Cox 4. Beck 4. Hatton 2. For Georgia Tech, Randall 7 and Denton 7. The two Kentucky boys have picked up 14 of these 25 points. Gary Phillips has 6, Blemker 3, Inman 2. And that's the Georgia Tech scoring. Jim Johnson, a starter, has been shut out. We have Kentucky with 11 field goals on 38 shots, a .393 average. Georgia Tech, 11 of 31 shots, 35.5%. Back in the front court now as we go back to play is Terry Randall of Tech going into the last 4 minutes of the first half. Kentucky in front, 33-25, their longest lead of the game. On the left side, the Phillips breaks out to the free throw line with Cox switching off on him. He threatens to go down that right side. Cox keeps him right around the free throw line. He passes out deep to Blemker. Blemker just tom-toms the ball. As Kentucky with an 8-point lead is content to let Tech play with it as much as they want to. Over to Phillips, takes it in, and a foul is called in close quarter screening on Kentucky's Johnny Cox. His second personal and the fourth on Kentucky. Tech has committed 5. 3 minutes, 33 seconds in the first half as Gary Phillips makes his first appearance at the free throw line. Neither team has missed a free throw. We've seen 10 of them go in. This one is no good. Rebounding, Inman of Tech fights to hold on to it, passes outside to Phillips from 15 feet. It's no good. Johnson has the rebound knocked away by Randall, but he recovers it. Hatton wide open, and Randall commits his 4th foul in backcourt. So now Georgia Tech's got the key man in trouble. Terry Randall with 4 personals. That is the 6th personal foul on Tech in this half, which means that after this, the bonus rule is in effect. Phil Johnson on the Kentucky free throw line for 1 shot good. Johnson drops it in to give Kentucky its first 9-point lead, and for Georgia Tech, Jim Johnson replaces Terry Randall. Randall goes out, 7 points, 4 personals. 3 minutes and 23 seconds in the first half here at Lexington. Kentucky 34, Georgia Tech 25. Bud Blemker, the leading scorer, with 3 points in this game tonight, a field goal and a free throw. Passes down the right side to Johnson, who walks with it. The official indicated he double dribbled, alternating hands. Hatton passes in front court to Cox, a one-bounce dribble, and to Hatton moving in the front court. Passes over to Adrian Smith. Johnson moves into a double pivot with Beck. Hatton, or rather as he passes in, Denton kicks it out of bounds, and Kentucky will take it on the right side of the offensive court as we move into the last 3 minutes of the first half. Smith, a bounce pass to Hatton, who yells something to Smith, taking it deep to the left. Pivots, passes back to Smith, who moves into the free throw line, kicks over to Hatton, and a 15-foot one-handed shot is no good. Bud Blemker gets the rebound batted out to him for Georgia Tech. Kentucky with a 9-point edge as Blemker moves back in front court. Hatton has 2 points, Kentucky's leading scorer, and Blemker, Tech's leading scorer, has 3. They're guarding each other. Jim Johnson from 15 feet hits for Georgia Tech, his first field goal of the game. It's 34-27 for the Wildcats. Odie Smith in front court moves against Blemker to the baseline and kicks back out to Hatton, who flips to Hatton deep, to Cox on the left side in the pivot. Outside to Hatton. Down the left side to Cox on the pivot. He takes a hook. Good. Anytime Johnny Cox goes near that pivot, the fans start wanting the hook shot. They got it. And Kentucky leads with 2 minutes in the first half, 36-27. Dave Denton of Tech back in front court. Over to Blemker, staying deep, moving over to the right. Pulls it up, and Hatton quickly moves in. Passes to Denton, spins left, and falls away from Smith. Shot's good. So Dave Denton is the leading scorer for Georgia Tech now with 9 points. It's 36-29 as Johnson gets it on the right side of the Kentucky front court, out to Smith to Hatton. On the left side of the pivot to Cox, and Gary Phillips fouls him from the rear, and the bonus shot will come to Johnny Cox if he hits the first one. That's the first foul on Phillips, but the 7th foul on Georgia Tech with 1 minute and 32 seconds here in the first half. Johnny Cox stands in at the free throw line, ready to go. Cox has 6 points in this game, 2 field goals, 2 free throws. Here's the free throw, good. Cox had to use a little body English as it looked short to him, but it went in without touching the front side of the rim. And now he's on the line for the first bonus shot of the ball game, and it's good. Kentucky has hit 10 for 10 at the free throw line, and they're in front again by 9 points. 38-29, minute and a half in this first half. Down the left side for Tech to Jim Johnson. A quick fake but no move. In the left corner to Blimker. Fakes a shot, moves out on Hatton. Beck switches off on him as he goes to the free throw line. Passes out to Dave Denton. Denton fakes an outside set shot with Odie Smith on him. Moves to the left side. Passes over to Bud Blimker. Blimker's got Beck on him down the right side to Phillips. With Johnson on him, he takes him right in under the basket. Flips it up, no good. Hatton rebounds, pulls up quickly, shoots a leading pass that Odie Smith can't get to, and Phillips picks it up for Georgia Tech. Over to Bud Blimker, moving in front court. 50 seconds in the first half. Blimker down the right side. Quick shot that Hatton blocks and takes right off his hands. Throws it to Odie Smith over his head. He runs it down in the right corner. Whips right into the hands of Dave Denton of Georgia Tech. So that's twice Kentucky's had the ball, and each time Georgia Tech has taken it away from them without a shot. 35 seconds now in the first half. High pass in the pivot to Inman. Outside to Phillips to Denton. Denton moves in closely now on Smith. Passes outside to Blimker. Moves to the left side. Phillips breaks for the basket. The pass is over to Denton, though. Into the pivot now. Here's Blimker with a follow-away shot on Hatton. That's short. Tapped up by Johnson. No good. Rebounding Ed Beck of Kentucky. Three men go for him, so he hauls it out of there himself. Whips to Johnny Cox in front court. Pulls up in the free throw line. Whips over to Hatton. He's wide open from 10 feet. No good. Gary Phillips rebounds for Georgia Tech. Doesn't look at the clock, and the first half ends without a Georgia Tech shot. So at the end of one half of play, the score, Kentucky 38, Georgia Tech 29. Georgia Tech has not yet been able to get the lead from the Wildcats, who have been led in scoring by Odie Smith with 12 points, 4 field goals, 4 free throws. Next with 11 points is John Krigler, 5 field goals and a free throw. The number 3 man is Johnny Cox. Cox has 8 points, 2 field goals, 4 free throws. Then we have Ed Beck with 4 points, 2 field goals. We have Vernon Hatton with 2 points on 1 field goal, and Phil Johnson, the only Kentucky substitute, 1 point on a free throw. The scoring for Georgia Tech. Terry Randall has picked up 7 points on 3 field goals and a free throw. We have the top man, Dave Denton, with 9 points on 4 field goals and a free throw. 6 points for Gary Phillips, 3 field goals, and he's missed the only free throw missed by either team. 3 points for Bud Blimker, a field goal and a free throw. 2 points for Frank Inman on 1 field goal. Jim Johnson, 2 points on 1 field goal. And that's the Georgia Tech scoring. Kentucky 38, Georgia Tech 29 at halftime here in the Coliseum. Well, right now, we've got a couple of gentlemen standing alongside us here that we'd like to talk with. Here is the commissioner of the Kentucky High School Athletic Association, Mr. Ted Sanford. Ted?
How are you, Flo? It's good to be here tonight.
Thank you, sir. Mighty good to have you. Odie Smith just in backcourt. Down the left side as Kentucky goes for that northern basket off to our left to Cox, 15-footer, good. So Johnny Cox opens the second half with his 3rd field goal, and Kentucky for the first time has an 11-point lead, 40-29. Blimker in front court. Gives down on the right side to Johnson. 1 bounce dribble out to the free throw line. Tech takes that southern basket off to our right. Blimker flips it out now, gets it from Randall. Backs away from Odie Smith. Whips in on the pivot. Inman breaks into the basket against Beck. Jump shot, no good. Rebounding Johnny Cox. Brings it out of there, then passes over to Adrian Smith, who flips in front court to Hatton on the right side. Back outside to Cox. Whips in the right corner to Hatton, moves in, and from 10 feet, hits. Vernon Hatton with his 2nd field goal sends Kentucky in front 42-29 after 45 seconds of the second half. Bud Blimker in front court for the Yellow Jackets on the right side to Jim Johnson. Johnson moves out to the free throw line, whips under there to Terry Randall and Adrian Smith. He lays it in. So Terry Randall picks up his 4th field goal and matches Dave Denton with 9 points. It's a 42-31 game. Kentucky in front here at Lexington. Hatton gives a high pass to Krigler in the pivot against Randall, and he lays it up no good. But a foul on Randall, and he's out of the ball game. Terry Randall gets a pat on the back from Vernon Hatton as he lasts only 1 minute and 12 seconds of the second half. Nice hand for Terry Randall as he leaves the ball game with 9 points. Came into the game averaging 15 and the number 2 scorer. He finishes his night's work with 4 field goals and a free throw. 1 of the field goals in this half of play, and Dave Denton of Bowling Green, who has picked up 9 points in the first half as a substitute, checks in to replace him. Kentucky 42, Georgia Tech 31. Krigler will shoot 2 free throws. Krigler in now for his first one. He's a one-hand free throw shooter. Sights, gets it. Krigler stands in now, trying for his 13th point, which will make him Kentucky's leading scorer, and it's good. As Krigler tops scoring, Kentucky leads 44-31. Krigler has 13 points, one better than Adrian Smith. Denton in front court on the left side to Johnson, takes a return pass, moves out of there and throws it off the hand of Phillips into the right corner. He slams it back in blindly, and Johnny Cox touched it last, and Georgia Tech takes it on the right side of its offensive court. Phillips flips deep to Blemker. Blemker keeping it deep for Tech, has it knocked down by Hatton and has to go back and get it. Now passes right side to Phillips, who spins in on Krigler under the basket, shoots it no good, but a foul on John Krigler is the first one on Krieg and the first one of the second half. The college all-stars, scoring on their first offensive play, crushed the Tucson Cowboys pro team this afternoon, 56-28. That's the first Optimist Bowl played out at Tucson, Arizona. Here's a free throw by Gary Phillips, no good. He has another one coming. He was fouled in the act of shooting. Phillips is the only man on either team to have missed a free throw in this game. And this one's good, giving him 1 for 3. The score 44-32 as Krigler gets it on the right side against Blemker and has it taken away by Denton of Georgia Tech. Over to Bud Blemker. Duke has defeated NYU tonight. The final score, Duke 67, NYU 60. Here's Blemker on the free throw line for Tech in the left corner to Denton, who takes a jump shot, no good. Hits off the rim and Beck's hand and out of bounds to Georgia Tech. Kentucky 44, Georgia Tech 32. Out of bounds is Phillips. Bounce pass comes on the right side to Inman, breaks for the basket and lays it up, no good. Beautiful rebound by Johnny Cox, who hooks it in away from Inman, flips to Hatton in front court on the left side to Smith, and a 10-footer good. Adrian Smith picks up his 5th field goal and 14th point, and a broken shoelace for Tech breaks an official's timeout after 2.5 minutes. Kentucky 46, Georgia Tech 32, as the Wildcats have outscored Georgia Tech by 5 points in this second half. Bud Blemker is playing in tennis shoes instead of basketball shoes, and so he goes to the Tech bench to get a new pair of shoelaces. What little we've seen of basketball players wearing tennis shoes has been very unsatisfactory here during the Invitational Tournament. One of the players, West Virginia, if our memory is correct, even ran out of them. It came off of him in the middle of the floor. So they're going to let Georgia Tech have full advantage of a timeout. Although it's an official's time for a broken shoelace, Kentucky takes the same advantage in huddling up with Coach Adolph Rupp. It gives us an opportunity to remind you that we'll be back with you over these same Standard Oil stations Monday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Central Time, from Nashville, Tennessee, where we'll be broadcasting the Kentucky-Vanderbilt game. Vandy is in action tonight down at Knoxville against Tennessee. It's Kentucky and Vandy Monday night. Tip-off time is 9:15 Eastern Time, 8:15 Central Time. Georgia Tech will have the ball under the Kentucky basket. As Kentucky has made any decisions they cared to, they're down near the Georgia Tech bench, and Johnny Cox stands in to hear what Whack Hyder's telling the engineers. John Krigler moves in now to overhear it, and Tech breaks huddle. We've got Blemker fixed up with a new shoestring. Quack Hyder, smiling, yells something to Gary Phillips, and John Krigler gets the full benefit of the coaching. So we're back to play now. As Blemker moves in front court, Kentucky leads by 14 points. On the right side to Gary Phillips, who faces Krigler. Moves out, cuts back to the right, breaks in on Krigler, who stops him. He flips it up over the rim, and Beck knocks it outside to Adrian Smith, and he's fouled by Dave Denton. Correct us on it, a foul on Adrian Smith of Kentucky. It's his 3rd one for charging. And that is the 2nd foul on Kentucky in this half of play. Dave Denton goes to the Georgia Tech free throw line. 17 minutes and 14 seconds to play. Denton has not missed a free throw. This one's good, and it's 46-33 in favor of the Wildcats as they swing back to the attack with Krigler on the right side, whipping to Smith at the free throw line. A bounce pass to Hatton, outside to Beck, off the right side to Krigler. Krigler against Denton, pulls up quickly after a one-bounce dribble and passes out to Hatton. Now takes a return, and Hatton breaks into the right, takes Inman with him and passes out to Smitty to Cox from 20 feet. A one-hand jump shot, no good, and Hatton knocks it out of bounds. Georgia Tech takes over in backcourt, trailing by 13 points after being down by 9 at the half. Bud Blimker in front court. He's the leading scorer, and he has 3 points in this game. On the left side, Beck quickly picks him up as Hatton switches off to pick up Jim Riley, who's now in the ball game. Here's an outside shot by Blimker, no good. Knocked up by Johnson, taken off by Beck, fed to Hatton. Cocked that arm to look at Smitty going in front court, but didn't risk the dangerous cross-court pass. Now it's over to Smitty from 15 feet to the left. He misses. Up for the rebound is Cox. It's knocked away from him and out of bounds by Blimker of Tech. Tech gets it, and he passes into Dave Denton, moving up into front court. Moves down the right side, got a screen. Smith fights through. He's double-teamed, hooks it out to Riley, R-I-L-E-Y, from Russellville, Kentucky, 19-year-old sophomore. Riley, 6'8", weighs 193. Here's Cox cutting one off of him, but throws it right back to Gary Phillips of Tech, who breaks in on Ed Beck. Passes out deep to Dave Denton. 4 minutes of the second half gone, with Kentucky in front, 46-33, trying for their first conference win of the season. Ball knocked out of bounds by Krigler off the foot of Gary Phillips. And the Wildcats get the ball as Odie Smith moves in front court with it, down the left side to Cox. He fakes Phillips and leaves him. Shoots, no good. Foul called. Bud Blimker of Georgia Tech, his first foul of the game. And that's 2 of them on Tech in this half. As a matter of fact, each team has committed 2 personals. Johnny Cox will take 1 shot. We have had only 1 bonus shot in this game, and that was by Johnny Cox in the first half. 15 minutes and 34 seconds to play. And Cox with a 2-handed free throw misses. Beck taps it up, no good, and goes to his back on the floor as the rebound is taken in by Jim Johnson. Over to Dave Denton, moving in front court. Kentucky had hit 12 consecutive free throws before that one missed by Cox. And here's Blimker from the left side, missing for Tech. Tapped out by Krigler, away from Phillips, over to Cox, to Odie Smith, beautifully to Hatton, who got the shot, and a foul goes good on Bud Blimker of Georgia Tech, his second field goal, his second personal. Hatton's field goal is his 3rd one, second of this half. Some beautiful passing in that 3-man fast break with Smith, Hatton, and Cox. Out of the Georgia Tech lineup is Jim Johnson. As in to replace him is Frank Inman, the sophomore starting center from Memphis. So Hatton is on the Kentucky free throw line for the first time, shooting 1 free throw. As Kentucky leads by 15 points, or 6 better than halftime. Hatton's free throw, good. It had to have enough forward English to climb the rim, though, to make it 49-33 for the Cats. Up in the front court now is Dave Denton, 6'3" guard for the Engineers. Down the left side to Riley, who's open from 15 feet, and he missed it. Came out on him. Beck rebounds, flipping to Hatton, triggers a fast break with a pass to Cox, to Smith on the right. He pulls up as he's cut off by Riley, gives it out to Hatton, and he moves in from 10 feet and missed this one, but a foul is called on Georgia Tech's Jim Riley. His first foul. Vernon Hatton moves into the Kentucky free throw line for 1 shot. Hatton, a 2-handed free throw shooter, flips it up and in for his 2nd straight. Hatton now has 6 points in this half, total of 8, to make it 50-33 for the Cats. And Denton from the free throw line misses for Tech. The ball is on the floor. Phillips picks it up, spins in against Krigler, and a foul is called on Krigler. For Krigler, it is his 2nd personal and the 3rd of the half on Kentucky. 14 minutes, 37 seconds to play as 1 shot's being awarded Gary Phillips. Phillips has hit 1, missed 2. He's the only man for Tech that's missed a free throw. This shot's good. And the score is Kentucky 50, Georgia Tech 34, as Krigler gets it in front court quickly. Passes to Hatton at the top rim of the circle. Moves to the left side, fakes a shot, gives to Cox, and he takes that hook. Good. Cox has 2 field goals in each half. Kentucky 52, Georgia Tech 34. Timeout, Georgia Tech. Their 3rd one of the ball game. And let us take timeout. 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Standard Oil Sports Network.
WVLK, Lexington, Kentucky. It's 9 o'clock.
Back at the Coliseum here in Lexington, the second half scoring shows Vernon Hatton leading the way with 6 points and a total of 8 for the game. Odie Smith with 2 and a total of 14. John Krigler has 2 points and a total of 13. Johnny Cox has 4 and a total of 12. Into the Georgia Tech lineup now. Johnson and Riley comes out. That's Jim Johnson. Kentucky is not making a change. Georgia Tech has only 1 field goal here in the second half after 5 minutes and 41 seconds of play. That by Terry Randall, who fouled out after only a minute and 12 seconds of the second half. That's been Tech's only field goal this half. And Randall fouled out with a total of 9 points. 2 free throws by Phillips, giving him a total of 8 points, and Denton a free throw, giving him a total of 10 for the game. Denton, a substitute, is Georgia Tech's leading scorer. As we go back to play, Denton will put it in play from midcourt. The pass is into Blemker, who moves over the center stripe, setting it up for the Engineers, attacking the southern basket off to our right. The pass is over to Denton, outside to Blemker at the top rim of the circle with Hatton on him. Hatton has done a fine defensive job against Georgia Tech's leading scorer, holding him to a field goal and a free throw in the first half. Over it goes to Gary Phillips. He fakes, cuts down the left side against Krigler, can't get that shot away, and Odie Smith takes the ball away from him, and Gary Phillips fell into the back of him, forcing Smith to walk with it, and it's out of bounds to Georgia Tech on the left side of their offensive court. Phillips passes into Denton, who sets it up now for the Engineers. Down the right to Blemker, unloads a 20-footer that's good. So Bud Blemker picks up his second field goal of the game to narrow the Kentucky lead to 52-36, and Smith from 15 feet misses. Tapped up by Cox, no good. On the floor, it's picked up by Johnson, who slings himself clear of opposition under the Kentucky basket. Passes it over to Blemker, moving it up into front court on the left side against Hatton. Now brings it back out front, Hatton driving him deep. He brings it to the right. Gary Phillips trying to screen Hatton off the play, fails. Now here's Johnson passing out deep to Phillips. Phillips brings it to the right, gives to Blemker. Tech's whole offense is based on the pick. Here's a jump shot, good again by Blemker as he picks up 2 in a row. (52-38) after 7 minutes of the second half. Kentucky's Hatton and Smith talking it over, moving up the back court. Setting it up down the right side. Hatton passes to Krigler, back to Odie Smith. He sets, breaks in against Blemker, and Denton takes the ball away from him, goes one-on-one with Hatton. Now picked up by Jim Johnson, who gets in and falls down out of bounds. So the ball goes over to Kentucky with Hatton passing quickly to Odie Smith, moving back in front court. On the right side to Krigler from 15 feet, he hits. John Krigler with his 6th field goal. Makes it Kentucky 54, Tech 38. Gary Phillips back in front court for Georgia Tech. Over to Dave Denton. 25 feet straight away, passing to Blemker to the right side. Blemker out to the top rim of the circle, passes back to Denton. Denton moves out, whips one under the basket. Krigler knocks it down and fouls Gary Phillips. For Krigler, that's his 3rd foul. Odie Smith also has 3, and there's 2 on Johnny Cox, as that's the 4th one in this half on Kentucky. Kentucky has committed 4 personals in each half, and Phillips, who's hit 2 and missed 2, will shoot 1 that's good. Kentucky 54, Georgia Tech 39, and Hatton back in front court for the Wildcats. Moves it deep to the left, lets Beck get in on the pivot. Odie Smith, who was down on the baseline, comes out, gets it, feeds Krigler back to Smith on the right side. Out to Hatton, goes in on Johnson, and a foul is called against the 6'6" Georgia Tech forward. Jim Johnson's first personal. According to our record, that's 4 on Tech in this half. We've played 8 minutes here in the second half, and Vernon Hatton is on the Kentucky free throw line. He's 2 for 2, shooting 1. Hatton dips, 2-hander is good. Kentucky leading 55-39 at this point. Dave Denton of Georgia Tech back in front court. Moving down the left side, pulls up about 20 feet away and passes deep to Blemker. Blemker back to Denton on the left side. He's got Odie Smith on him now. Whips one into Johnson that Cox knocks outside. Johnson picks up, fires in, and Krigler takes it away from Gary Phillips. Passes quickly over to Beck to get the ball out of trouble. Back over to Krigler, moving it in front court. Krigler pulls up from the top of the circle and walks with it, and the ball is out of bounds to Georgia Tech. Gary Phillips passes into Blemker, moving back in front court. Blemker breaks to the left side. Picked up by Smith. He feeds one into Johnson as his shot blocked beautifully by Beck, and he steps out of bounds with it. And we'll have a jump ball. Johnny Cox moves in to jump with him. And Tech has 2.5 inches height advantage. Here's the tap. Krigler gets it for Kentucky, fades it to Smith, goes in against Blemker, and he missed the shot. The rebounding job done by Jim Johnson. Fades to Blemker, breaking in front court down the right side, left open from 15 feet. He shoots good. So Blemker held to 3 points in the first half, has now come back with 6 in this half, cutting Kentucky's lead to 14 points after 9 minutes. Cox feeds back on the pivot, back to Cox from 10 feet, no good. Cox goes to get the rebound, and he's knocked away from it and out of bounds. It goes to Kentucky. Kentucky 55, Georgia Tech 41. As Beck out of bounds calls the play. Passes to Odie Smith, 15 feet away. Whips left to Krigler, open from 7 feet. Good. John Krigler has 7 field goals to lead both teams in that department. Kentucky 57, Georgia Tech 41. Fewest points scored against Kentucky this year, 42 by Loyola Monday. Up in the front court, Denton from 15 feet fires, no good. Rebound by Ed Beck in the left corner. With his foot on the baseline, Georgia Tech gets it out of bounds. Dave Denton will put it in play for the Engineers. Bounce pass under the basket, knocked away by Cox, picked up by Inman, and fouled by Beck. It is the first foul on Ed Beck. 10 minutes and 14 seconds in the first half. That is 5 personals on Kentucky in this half. On the Georgia Tech free throw line, Frank Inman misses. Cox slaps over his head to Vernon Hatton. Up in front court to Krigler on the right side. In the corner to Odie Smith, who shoots without rebounding strength. No good, and the rebound taken off by Inman. Double team, fires in to Phillips under the Kentucky basket, and he moves up into front court as we go into the last 10 minutes of the ball game. He takes Krigler down the right side. Krig covers up, preventing a shot as it's passed out to Denton now. Breaks out on Smith, who doesn't give him shooting room. Passed in, and a hook by Johnson. No good. Rebound by Beck. Flipped out to Hatton. Taking Kentucky quickly into front court. Down the right side, passing out to Beck. Over to Smith to Krigler to the left side. He shoots. Good. Krigler has 8 field goals and timeout, Georgia Tech. It is the 4th timeout by the Engineers, and into the ball game, Jim Riley, tallest man on either team at 6'8", a Kentucky boy. Georgia Tech, as a matter of fact, has as many Kentucky boys as they do Georgia boys. 4. 9 minutes and 34 seconds to play here at the Coliseum in Lexington with the score Kentucky 59, Georgia Tech 41. Tech has not had the lead in the ball game. Twice they had the score tied at 2-2 and 4-4. But after the first minute and a half of play, Kentucky has been on top all the way. Second half scoring, John Krigler has 8 points for a total of 19. Vernon Hatton has 7 points for a total of 9. Odie Smith has 2 points for a total of 14. Johnny Cox in the second half has 4 points for a total of 12. Kentucky is hitting 46% of its shots, 22 field goals on 49 shots. Georgia Tech second half scoring. Terry Randall, 2 points, total of 9, and he fouled out after a minute and 12 seconds. Bud Blemker has picked up 6 points for a total of 9. Gary Phillips picked up 3 for a total of 9. And Dave Denton's picked up 1 for a total of 10 as he leads the Engineers in scoring. Georgia Tech has the ball under the Kentucky basket as we go back to play. And out in front, Kentucky by 18 points. Bud Blemker moving it up, waving Riley to the pivot. He's got Krigler on him, which means Georgia Tech's got 5 inches height advantage on that Krigler-Riley situation. It's over to Denton on the left side. Denton's got 3 inches on Odie Smith. Passes in, and a foul on Beck, who came up from the rear of Inman, trying to knock away an incoming pass. That's the 2nd foul on Beck and the 6th one on Kentucky in this half, which means that now the bonus rule will go into effect, but not on this free throw by Frank Inman, who will shoot 1, and it is good. So it is 59-42 in favor of Kentucky. We have Georgia Tech hitting 17 out of 55 shots for a 30.9 shooting percentage. Odie Smith in front court to Hatton, who throws it right up into Jim Johnson of Georgia Tech's hands. He passes over to Dave Denton, moving it in front court for the Engineers. Down the left side, Frank Inman fakes, breaks out, gives to Bud Blemker. He breaks to the right with Hatton trailing him. Hatton comes through the intended screen by Johnson. Blemker takes him back over the screen but can't hang him. It's over to Denton, who takes it back straight away. Whips in the pivot now to Johnson off the right side to Riley. Dropped it through his legs, and Krigler knocked it out of bounds. It goes to Kentucky. Krigler passes into Adrian Smith. In front court to Hatton. Back over to Smith. Bounce pass to Beck on the pivot. Smith breaks by. He hands to Hatton and screens. Hatton jitterbugs down the right and takes a 15-footer, no good. Riley rebounds for Tech out to Blimker. Kentucky leading 59-42. As Blimker breaks in front court to the top rim of the circle down the left side. On Hatton, he shoots. Shot blocked, picked up by Beck, fed out to Odie Smith, and it's 4-on-1. Hatton walked with it. A 4-on-1 situation. And Vernon Hatton walked, taking it down the middle. Dave Denton of Tech passing into Blimker as we move into the last 8 minutes of the ball game. Kentucky in front by 17 points. Blimker to Denton, takes a 20-foot jump shot over Smith that's no good. Hatton gets the rebound, cocks that arm for a fast break pass to Smith at the midcourt stripe. He moves into the free throw line, fakes a jump shot, flips back over his shoulder to Hatton coming in front court. Down the left to Cox, the hook, no good. Beck taps, no good. Krigler rebounds, lays it in. John Krigler with 9 field goals. And Kentucky leads 61-42 as Mills gets ready to come into the game for the first time. Up in front court, here's Inman of Tech giving in to Johnson, and a 10-foot hook's good. Jim Johnson has 1 field goal now in each half. Phil Johnson also waiting to get in for the Wildcats. He played as a substitute in the first half and picked up a free throw. Cox on the left side to Adrian Smith. Hatton goes through, pass out to Krigler from 20 feet, no good. Tapped outside, Blimker's got it for Tech. 7 minutes to play. Kentucky leads by 19 points as Blimker takes it down the right side, fires. Krigler deflects it short to Beck. Whips it out to Cox for a 3-2 fast break. Smith and Krigler going with him. Over to Smith. Pulls out from 10 feet and shoots. No good. Krigler taps it in. That is 10 field goals by John Krigler, and it is the best night he's had. One better than his 22 against Ohio State. And the most field goals by a Kentuckian this season has been 11 by Hatton against Loyola. Krigler now has 10. 5 of them in this half, 5 in the first half. 6.5 minutes to play. Kentucky with its longest lead, 21 points, as Cassidy waits to get in. And Phillips of Georgia Tech waits to get in. We got 4 subs waiting as Blimker hits from 10 feet for Tech. 5th field goal by Blimker. It's 63-44 as Cox breaks for the basket, leaving Riley, misses. Beck lays in the rebound. Beck has 3 field goals. With 6 minutes to play, Kentucky leads 65-44, trying for their first conference win of the season and 8th in 11 games. Blimker in front court to Riley on the right side. Left-hander moves out, gives to Denton, breaks in, 15-foot jump shot to the right, no good, and Beck gets the rebound. Outside to Cox, gets by Denton, who stabs and misses. Down the right to Krigler from 15 feet, no good. Cox rebounds, takes the hook, no good, as it comes off a pushing foul on Kentucky, or Tech, Georgia Tech. It's on Riley, his second personal of the game. Out of the ball game, Johnny Cox and Ed Beck. Don Mills in for the first time, a 20-year-old sophomore from Berea. Mills is 6'7", weighs 190. Number 7 scorer with 19 points, a 2.7 average. Best night 8 against Utah State. Frank Inman comes out of the Tech lineup as Phillips is in. Phil Johnson in the Kentucky lineup. And Bill Cassidy waits to replace Hatton. 5 minutes, 39 seconds to play. John Krigler still in the ball game, owns 23 points, his best scoring night of the season. Most points scored this season by any Wildcat is Vernon Hatton's 26 in the first game of the season against Duke. Hatton hits the free throw, and he's being taken out of the ball game. Cassidy coming in to replace him, 22-year-old senior from Inez. 6'2", weighs 191. Number 8 scorer with 14 points, 2.3 average. Best night, 10 points against Utah State. Kentucky 66, Georgia Tech 44. 5.5 minutes to go. Blimker down the left side, and a foul is called against Kentucky. Cassidy for charging, trying to fight his way through a screen set by Dave Denton, who goes to the free throw line by the bonus rule being in effect. He could pick up 2. Denton has not missed. He's hit 2 for 2. The shot's good. This is the first bonus shot for Georgia Tech in the ball game. Kentucky had 1 in the first half. Kentucky tonight has missed only 1 free throw. They hit 10 in the first half. Here in the second half, they've hit 6 out of 7. Denton drops in his free throw. Georgia Tech has missed only 3. Here's Krigler losing the ball off his arm and out of bounds. Tech takes over, trailing by 20 points, 66-46. Gary Phillips in front court, passes over to Blimker. Got Cassidy on him as he moves down to the right side of the baseline. Comes out, falls away from Cassidy, and hits. Blemker picks up his 6th field goal, 5 of them in this half of play, and it's 66-50. Smith in front court to Cassidy. Here's Cassidy from 20 feet, no good. High in the air is Mills, no good. Taps again, no good. Johnson taps, Krigler rebounds, fights to hold on, and is fouled by Riley of Georgia Tech. That is 3 fouls on Riley. Georgia Tech lost Randall on 5 fouls after only a minute and 12 seconds of this second half. Krigler is on the Kentucky free throw line, shooting 1 with a bonus roll in effect. Krigler 3 for 3 at the free throw line, shoots good. Percentage-wise, Krigler is Kentucky's best free throw shooter. Krigler has hit on the free throw line the bonus shot for 5 straight for Krigler and a 68-50 Kentucky lead. Krigler now has 25 points. Here's a break by Dave Denton and a foul by Adrian Smith of Kentucky, his 4th one. 4 minutes and 46 seconds to play, as Krigler now strives for 1 point to equal the 26 scored by Hatton as Kentucky's best individual performance scoring-wise. Denton at the free throw line misses. Rebounding Phil Johnson of Kentucky, a 1-bounce dribble as he brings it out, giving to Cassidy. Southpaw moves it up into front court, takes it down the left side, flips back to Johnson in the left corner, back to Cassidy. He takes a 20-footer, good. Cassidy with his first field goal is the 7th Wildcat to score as Abe Collinsworth comes off the Kentucky bench with a 70-50 lead for the Wildcats. 4 minutes, 25 seconds to play. Blemker on the right side to Johnson and back to Blemker. He takes Cassidy to the right corner, brings him back up the left side, goes for the basket and falls away, hitting. 7 field goals for Blemker now, 6 of them this half. 70-52 the score. As Ham Stith waits to get in for Tech, he hasn't appeared tonight. In the pivot to Mills, hooks over Riley, no good. Tapped by Johnson, it's good. Cassidy also in on the play. It goes to Phil Johnson, his first field goal. It's 72-52 for the Wildcats as Blemker breaks in against Cassidy, falls away and misses this time. Johnson knocks down and gets the rebound. Knocked away from him, and Dave Denton of Bowling Green can't hang on for Tech. The pass is up to Smitty, pumps one into Mills at the baseline, goes under, shoots no good. Outside, Cassidy taps out of bounds, and it goes to Georgia Tech. Kentucky 72, Georgia Tech 52, 3.5 minutes to play. Now Dick Howe comes off the Kentucky bench. Kentucky has 2 starters, Krigler and Odie Smith, left in the ball game. Here's Blemker down the left side against Cassidy, falls away and misses again. Gary Phillips rebounds and goes to the floor with Krigler, hard. Krigler was on top, both boys hitting on their back. Into the Georgia Tech lineup, Ham Stith, an East Point, Georgia junior who's 21 years old, stands 6'5", weighs 200. Odie Smith comes out of the Kentucky lineup as Dick Howe is in, H-O-W-E, 21-year-old junior from Carbondale, Illinois. Howe is 6'5", weighs 208, has 2 points against Loyola, and is the number 11 scorer. And that Loyola game is the only one in which Howe has appeared. 3 minutes and 17 seconds to play. Kentucky with a 20-point edge on Georgia Tech, striving for their 8th win of the season and first win in the conference. Tap goes to Cassidy and out of bounds. Goes out to Kentucky. Billy Ray Cassidy out of bounds to put it in play. Flips into Krigler, the only regular in the ball game, and Kentucky calls a timeout in order to get Krigler out of the lineup and Abe Collinsworth in. 21-year-old senior from Salyersville. Collinsworth, 6'3", weighs 190. Got 1 point against Loyola, averaging 1/5 of a point a game. Number 12 scorer. So Krigler comes out with 25 points, the leading scorer for the Cats. And Kentucky, with 3 minutes, 7 seconds to go, is going to take advantage of the timeout. Only score we've had reported so far is Duke 67, NYU 60. The Blue Devils winning by 7 points. We'll be back with you over these same Standard Oil stations Monday night from Nashville. It is 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time when we'll be broadcasting the Kentucky-Vanderbilt game. Conference game number 2 for each club, as Vandy tonight is in Knoxville playing Tennessee. Kentucky moves back out to start the ball game after ending their first time out. Cassidy is out of bounds. Gets the ball. Passes in backcourt to Collinsworth. Closely guarded by Denton, who falls away now as Collinsworth gets the ball. In front court to Howe on the right side, back to Collinsworth. Outside to Johnson, breaks down the left against Phillips, who knocks the ball down. Collinsworth picks it up, moves to the top rim of the circle and angling over to the right side. Back to Cassidy. Moves to the left. gets a screen from Johnson, gives to him as he turns to face him. Johnson hooks, no good. Knocked out of bounds by Dick Howe. Georgia Tech takes over. Kentucky holds a 20-point edge. Dave Denton moving up in front court as Tech calls its last time out of the game. Kentucky 72, Tech 52. Into the ball game for the first time is Jerry Meyer, 18-year-old sophomore from Atlanta, who is 6'2", weighs 178. And also George Enman from Memphis, Tennessee, 19-year-old sophomore for the first time. George Enman, 6'3", weighs 179. Bud Blimker comes out of the game. Blimker was limited to 3 points in the first half, but came back for 12 here in the second half as he leaves the ball game. 2 minutes, 37 seconds to go as Kentucky not making any further change in the starting lineup. All the starters have gone. The ball game started with Adrian Smith putting Kentucky in front on a field goal. Gary Phillips of Tech matched it. Then Kriegler hit from 10 feet, but Blimker matched it, and it was a 4-4 ball game when Beck tapped in and Kriegler hit from the outside, and Kentucky went on top 8-4, and Tech has never yet caught them. Here's Riley in front court, over to Stith, into the left corner. He passes back up the side into Riley, knocked up in the air by Collinsworth. A fight for the ball and a foul on Collinsworth. It's Collinsworth's first personal foul. 2 minutes and 24 seconds to play, and Georgia Tech's George Inman will take one shot with a bonus rule in effect. Inman is a one-handed free throw shooter. It's good, cutting the Kentucky lead to 19 points. Inman has a bonus try now. The bonus shot is good. Kentucky 72, Georgia Tech 54. Passes into Howe, over to Mills. Moves it in front court, gives to Collinsworth, over and back, as Mills pitched to him in back court. Pass comes into Dave Denton of Georgia Tech. High passing on the pivot to Riley, the big 6'8" Kentucky center for Tech. A head fake and a jump shot. Good by Georgia Tech's George Inman, his first field goal. 4 points here as a substitute. Cassidy to Johnson in front court with 2 minutes to play. Tech's now within 18 points. Cassidy in front court, stays deep, moves to the right, gets Howe off, gives to Mills in the pivot, back to Collinsworth going through. It's knocked off his knee and out of bounds. Georgia Tech takes over. Back in front court's George Inman. Drives into the pivot, then goes into the left corner, and Howe knocks it away and out of bounds. Tech will take it in the deep left corner of its offensive court. Passes out deep to Dave Denton with Collinsworth on him. He breaks right down the middle, gets wide open, and misses the shot. Knocked up by Riley, no good. Rebounding Don Mills of Kentucky. Passing up to Collinsworth, moving in front court with a 72-56 lead. Collinsworth watches Johnson go to the pivot, passes left side to Don Mills, gives off to Cassidy, and from 25 feet a set shot's good. Cassidy with 2 field goals, better than his 2.3 average for the season, and Kentucky leads by 18 points. George Inman drives in front court, down the right side. He's left open and shoots no good. Slapped by Riley, no good. Dick Howe rebounds right into the face of Jerry Meyer, and they'll jump. Dick Howe at 6'5" will have 3 inches height advantage for Kentucky on the Georgia Tech free throw line. 58 seconds to play as the tap goes to Tech, and as Inman jumps, Howe blocks his shot. He picks it up, though, and passes outside to George Inman. Moving down to the right corner, Cassidy cuts him off, drives him back. Here's a pass that goes into back court. Now finally it rolls out of bounds into the Kentucky bench and goes out of bounds to Georgia Tech. The pass is in from Ham Stith to Dave Denton, who moves up in front court for the Engineers. He breaks down the middle again and shoots good. So Dave Denton now has 5 field goals and 14 points. It's 74-58 in favor of Kentucky. Cassidy to Collinsworth in front court. High pass in the pivot to Don Mills. Takes a 10-foot hook. That is good. Don Mills with his first field goal makes it 76-58 for the Wildcats. There are 10 seconds to go now. Up into front court. Dave Denton from 30 feet shoots. Good. And the ball game has 3 seconds to go. Denton has 6 field goals, and Collinsworth shoots. Too late. Missed it anyway. Final score is Kentucky 76. Georgia Tech 60, as Kentucky now has beaten Georgia Tech 5 consecutive games and has whipped Georgia Tech for the 43rd time in basketball. The late score just in: Princeton 80, Pennsylvania 68. We'll have individual scoring on this ball game in just a moment. Right now, a question: Have you tried Standard Oil's new Super Crown Extra in your car? This motor fuel, designed for the cars of tomorrow, is packed with more potential power per gallon. It will deliver peak performance without knock or pre-ignition, even in today's most critical high-compression engines. Reports on results with this gasoline, not only from owners of new high-compression cars, but from owners of older cars as well, have been enthusiastic. Year after year, Standard Oil gasolines enjoy sales leadership in the South because Southern motorists have found from experience that they set the pace in progress, performance, and protection. Enjoy the most perfect performance your car can deliver under all driving conditions. Fill up at the green and white pump at your Standard Oil station tomorrow. Here's the individual scoring. For the Kentucky Wildcats, John Krigler finished the night with 25 points. 3 better than his night in Columbus when he sacked 22 against Ohio State. Krigler had 5 field goals in each half and 5 free throws, 4 of them in the second half. Kentucky was led in the first half by Adrian Smith's 12 points, and he finished up the night with only 14 points as he got just a field goal in the second half. For Smith, 5 field goals and 4 free throws. The other Kentucky scoring, Johnny Cox had 12 points to hit double figures, but under his average. He had 4 field goals and 4 out of 5 on the free throw line. Matter of fact, Johnny Cox was the only Wildcat to miss a free throw in 19 shots that Kentucky had from the free throw line. So Vernon Hatton, Kentucky's captain tonight, just did make double figures with 3 field goals and 4 free throws and a total of 10 points. The other scoring, 4 points for Bill Cassidy on 2 field goals, 3 points for Phil Johnson, a field goal and a free throw, and 6 points for Ed Beck tonight. That's double his average almost, 3 field goals. The other Kentuckians that were in the ball game, Abe Collinsworth didn't score. Dick Howe in the ball game did not score. Don Mills finished up with 2 points and a field goal. Georgia Tech lost its number 2 scorer, Terry Randall, after 1 minute and 12 seconds of the second half. He finished up with 9 points, 4 field goals and a free throw. Bud Blimker, who was held to only 3 points by Hatton in the first half, came back to finish up with 15 points on 7 field goals and a free throw. Frank Inman had 3 points, a field goal, and 1 for 2 at the free throw line. Gary Phillips, 9 points, 3 field goals, 3 out of 5 on the free throw line. 4 points for Jim Johnson, a field goal in each half. George Inman, 4 points, a field goal, and 2 free throws in the second half. And 16 points for Dave Denton, a Bowling Green, Kentucky sophomore at Georgia Tech, and he takes scoring honors in a reserve role. 6 field goals, 4 free throws, and 5 shots. The rebounding picture, Kentucky, 53, Georgia Tech, 34, and Ed Beck tonight had 22 rebounds. That is the high for the season. Beats the 21 that Johnny Cox got against Minnesota. Percentage-wise, Kentucky hit .433 tonight, 29 field goals on 67 shots. Georgia Tech hit .329, 24 field goals on 73 shots. The other engineers that were in the ball game that did not score, Ham Stith, Jerry Meyer, Jim Riley. That wraps up the scoring for both teams and completes the highlights of this Kentucky-Georgia Tech game. We'd like to thank our statistician